The question that I want to start by asking you all is, what's stressing you out the most right now?
Business.
All right, got business over there, some relationships, kids, finances. All right. I think it's fair to say we all have some sort of a stress. We all have it. And growing up, I was bullied as a kid for being, being different. I was a predominantly white neighborhood that I was raised in. And so this whole concept of self-esteem, anxiety, depression as a teenager became very important to me. And I always knew I wanted to be in a profession that helped people. So after my first chiropractic adjustment at the age of 13, I was like, oh my God, I want to be a chiropractor. But I started noticing that I was going through a lot of anxiety. And so I made my own personal growth, my own personal development journey very important to me. And I always had a dream of combining the two together. And one day, a patient by the name of Gwen, those of you who heard me speak before, have heard me talk about Gwen, she came in with excruciating lower back pain shooting down the back of her leg, could not move, and she was on crutches, and she was on pain medication for like 10 years. And she was also one of those people who at the time was like, oh, Dr. Nima, you don't know what a terrible life I've had. You have no idea. How many of you guys know what I'm talking about? Somebody who has a very profound story of suffering from their past that they're very connected to deeply. Now, aside from her back problem, she also had anxiety, depression, she had high blood pressure. She was taking pills for all of those things. And I always thought to myself, all right, I'm just there for her spine, And so within 3 months, her back pain was gone. She was feeling amazing. This was a 10-year issue. And I was like, yay, this is awesome. And she no-showed for an appointment one day. And we called and we asked, Gwen, where are you at? Her husband answered the phone and said, unfortunately, Gwen died of a heart attack. And it was at that moment I realized that I had failed her as her doctor because I knew about stress, what it did to the body. And not only that, but I had worked on my own stories, my own traumas, those things that I had to, quote unquote, forgive other people for. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't really give her the full potential of what she could have had. And what if I had said something sooner? So it was at that moment that I decided to become a real doctor. Many people are like, oh, you're a chiropractor, you're not a real doctor. So what does doctor actually mean? It's a Latin word for what? Teacher. So it was at that moment that I decided that I wanted to start to teach my patients about where health comes from, how to move, how to eat, how to think, so that they can actually move towards a health state rather than be stuck in illness. Because you could be eating right, you could be doing all the right exercises, you could be doing all the meditations, but if you're stuck on something from your past, then it's going to transform. Then it's going to still move you towards an illness state. So I created these workshops in my practice for my patients a few years ago, and they started doing so much better. They started getting so much better, and I started feeling so purposeful then that I hated coming to work on Monday. I just really wanted to stick to doing the weekend workshops. So I decided one day that I'm going to pursue my dream. I'm going to travel the world, and I'm going to take that risk and jump and go against what people say, my family, whoever, and to just teach this tool that I created. It's called the Overview Method. And just full transparency here, Steve was talking about this event. We talked about this, and that was what you saw in the video, and we're having a workshop this weekend. So I'm letting you guys know that in full transparency right now, but I want to teach you guys a little bit about how to delve in there, because he talked a little bit about the past. He talked about creating health, and Steve was very open about his story. And I find with everyone with a chronic illness, it's a very good example, they're under a great deal of stress and they hate certain aspects of their lives. In other words, there's stuff that they're going through now or stuff that they had gone through that they feel that they have to forgive. So I want you to take out your phones, or if you guys have like these little cards on your table, and play along and follow along. And I want to teach you this exercise of how to take those stresses. And I'm basically giving you this overview method, kind of like the overview of the overview method. And if you guys have it, who needs it? Yeah. I just want you guys to do this exercise with me. And this is what we're going to be doing. It's kind of a weekend workshop that I'm condensing into, 15 minutes. So I want you to write down at the top what's stressing you out. So you're just going to get a little taste of it. So think about what's stressing you out right now. And I'm going to show you how it's tied into something. And without the tools of going back and transforming it, we then start to create a dis-ease state in the body, which then creates disease. Now, this isn't just a cancer thing. This isn't a cancer treatment. I remember that was the misunderstanding. This is not a treatment for cancer. But do people with cancer require a shift of that narrative? Most likely, yes. Because if we do all the right things but not have a shift in that narrative, we still are creating that. And I just love sharing this. Why? Because there is nowhere that I can see that you can go to actually get this type of healing. That's so fast that you can get right to the root cause and transform it. Without years of counseling and therapy, it's just going in there and changing that story very fast. It's the fastest way that I've observed. Why? Because I'm lazy and I wanted to find the quickest way. So I want you to write down at the very top what's stressing you out the most. Okay? What I want to show you, I'm going to use Steve's example here. Let's say, your future basically, if you have an event in the past, the stress that you're going through now is tied in to those things. We saw that in the video when I do the sessions on people. I do them one-on-one, we do them in group format. First and foremost, what is stress? Steve talked about it. It's the fight or flight response. So I want you to go back in time to the primitive hunter-gatherer days when we believed that we were living more innately. What were the main stresses of that time? Anyone? Finding food, a lack of food, or a predator. Exactly. So I want you to imagine yourself as that hunter-gatherer. They wake up in the morning, they go down, they reach for the water, and then all of a sudden, bah! Tiger just jumped out at you. You guys all just experienced a little bit of that stress response. What I did there was trigger your hypothalamic pituitary axis. It got you into that fight or flight state. Your body started to make these changes, pushing you into an adaptation. Now these adaptations are very important. Why? Keep you alive. We got to survive that freaking tiger. So thank God the blood pressure goes up. Thank God the digestion shuts down. Thank God that the reproductive system shuts down and the immune system shuts down and all of those things to conserve your energy for what? To survive that tiger. Now when a zebra gets chased down by a tiger in the Serengeti, within a 10, 50, let's say 3-4 minute chase, if he survives, he or she processes that, goes into a freeze state, processes it, shakes it off, and is gone, and is now grazing a few minutes later. But us humans, we can go through an event. And here's the crazy part about it. We can go through an event and stay in that fight or flight or freeze for years. For years. And our bodies are magnificently equipped for short-term tiger attack. But the problem happens when it gets prolonged. And here, when I discovered this, it made me want to actually transform careers, because I realized that 75 to 90% of the reason why you or anyone has gone to the doctor's office, stress was the underlying trigger. So I discovered that this changed everything for me. Whether or not there's a tiger chasing after you, or there is the fear of the tiger attack, your body reacts the same. Let me repeat that. Whether or not there's a tiger chasing after you, or there is the fear of the tiger attack, your body reacts the same. So we don't have to worry about tigers nowadays, but what are our modern day tiger attacks? Look at what you wrote down on what's stressing you out. That is a classic example. Okay? So, what I want to do is take you through this simple exercise, condensed in a few minutes, that I do each weekend. That I teach you how to find the root cause, and then apply these magical tools of universal laws, of asking the right questions, neutralizing things, to be able to see things from a different perspective and see how it's served. How did you guys feel when you saw Bryce make that connection between his bullying and his chronic fatigue? After that session, he got up. When I first saw him, he was like quiet and meditative. After we finished that session, he got up. He felt completely wide awake. His energy was back, simply because of a shift in perception. Perception is the biology of belief and perception. Amazing. So what we're going to do is no problem can be solved with the same level of thinking that created it. So why did I call it the overview method? Well, this is the first ever photograph ever taken of planet Earth. We went to study the moon, but we had an unexpected twist. We turned around, and for the first time we were able to look at ourselves. This is the first moment of humanity's collective self-awareness. We stopped and we were like, holy crap, there is no us versus them. There's just us. So there is no separation. We are alone, isolated in this desert. And we're in this together. We're on a floating frickin' spaceship. And we're gonna die soon. We're all terminal patients. All of us. Yes? Fact. So we all are here to, we all have specific values. So these are just a little bit of intelligences that you can have. You are sitting here with a priority and set of values. Your values come from whatever you perceive to be most missing in your life. Think of whatever you are most missing in your life, and I'll tell you exactly what it is that you're seeking. You go into this and you discovering what your values are. Most 95, 97% of people have no clue. This is a conscious community, so I'm sure the demographic is a little bit higher right now. You guys know what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to get you to do is, the next question here is, what are the delusions? This is where stress comes from. Stress comes from a delusion. Stress comes from a belief that goes against reality. In other words, a reality is happening and I'm resisting it, and I believe that it should be something else. Okay? So there shouldn't be any traffic. I should have more money. Your lack of finances do not have the power to stress you out. I've been there. I know exactly what that feels like. The belief that I should have more money at this time has the power to stress you out. Your things outside of you don't have the power to stress you out, your thoughts about those things. So I want you to look at your thing that's stressing you out, and I want you to spot the delusion. How many of you guys have seen the website, Reasons Why My Kid is Crying? Okay, I'm about to show you a bunch of stressed out kids. Okay, how many here have kids? Alright, I'm going to show you some stressed out kids. And I want you to spot the delusion. The delusion is the belief that goes against what should be. Okay? Tell me what the delusion is of this kid. Now what they do is, these kids have a meltdown, the parent takes a photograph, and then they write down why the kid is having a meltdown. Alright? So I want you to tell me where the delusion is in this kid. Where's the should? Where's the delusion there? I should be able to push the chair. Now, as Byron Katie says, is that true? Should he be able to push the chair? Now, If he has a belief that I should be able to push this chair all the way, which is going against his reality, he's going to have a freaking stress. He's going to have depression. He's going to have stress. Do we sit there and say, let's just meditate through it? Or do we actually go in and show him that his beliefs are false? Because without a confirmation that the beliefs are false, nothing can change. It's very interesting, isn't it? So we say, would you like to move? Listen, he weighs more than you. Would you like to move the chair? Yes. Okay, wake him up. Instant stress is gone. Have you ever been really upset at somebody for talking something bad about you behind your back, and you went to confront them, and you said, what the hell are you talking about? They turn around and they said, I have no idea what you're saying. I didn't say that. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. What happened there? All of a sudden, you're no longer stressed because you were confronted by the fact that your belief was false. Instantaneous stress gone. That's how this method works. It's about finding the fact that I shouldn't have cancer. It goes against reality. You have cancer. The reason why Steve had healed himself from cancer was because he first, after he had his pity party, he first removed the belief that I shouldn't have it, and he found how it served. Bryce there, when we did his session, he completely realized why he brought on the cancer, and cancer saved his life. Now, if you remove the stress from the situation, does the body work better or worse? Better. Does this kind of work say that we're encouraging people to go get cancer? No. The future hasn't been written yet, but the past already has. And the past has determined that this person has an illness. Most of the clients that I saw were coming from that place of victimhood. And if you don't get out of that place, then you're going to be stuck there with that illness. And it frustrated me as a practitioner to no end, which is what drove me to want to go out and promote this work, because it needs to get out there. So I want you to write down for me, spotting the delusion of your stress. Where is the should of your stress that you wrote down? Take a look at the stress. Now look at this picture. Where is the should here? He didn't want to share his leg hole right there. Where's the should? I should have my own leg hole. Now, he has the belief that I should have my own leg hole. She doesn't give a shit. They are both in the same environment. Same thing happens. However, one has a stress response. If I were to take a swab of his cortisol, his body is moving towards an illness state. This is why two people in a war who've experienced the exact same battle, one of them goes off and becomes an entrepreneur, multimillionaire. The other one gets post-traumatic stress disorder and is suicidal. And you ask both of them, to what do you owe your faith? And they said it was that battle. Completely different perceptions. This is all about the belief. I have patients who are firefighters and they're like, yeah, I'm a trainer of firefighters. I can tell right away the ones who are going to get PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder, from my observation, because I work with people in car accidents all for 15 years, the ones who have the belief that I shouldn't have experienced that have PTSD. The ones who see, they don't have that belief and they see how it served them, just have trauma. That's the difference between post-traumatic stress and then the ones who have a disorder about it. The disorder transforms when you change the story. So, the next thing, the reason why your issue right now that you wrote down is so stressful Are you guys following with it? Yeah, you guys are following? You're engaged with the specific stressor? Okay. Are you interested in finding out why it's so stressful? It's because you're taking this event, or this phenomenon that's happening in your life, and from an overview perspective, you're looking down and you're making an interpretation about that event or that thing. And that interpretation is usually, you saw me work with Bryce, is usually an I am statement. So I want you to think for a moment, what is the I am statement that you're making about that specific issue in your life? And by the way, this is a self-directed tool that you can actually do over and over again by yourself or with the help of a buddy. And this is just a little snippet. We give it out in the workbook, and I'm going to encourage you guys, you can download it for free. Please write this down, drnima.com/free download. Just wanted to give it to you guys to try out. It's tough. It's not going to be easy. That's why I encourage you to give it a shot. We go over this through that. Free download. So, did you guys write down the interpretation? Now the next part, as you saw, is the feelings and emotions. How did that make you feel? Most people are so disconnected from feelings. Most people are so disconnected from the way they feel. Why? Because painful feelings are so uncomfortable, we will do everything we can to avoid them. But you're here to experience all emotions, not just one, not just the positive, happy. You're here to experience all of them. The more that you run away from that, this is the shadow part of us, the I am, not good enough, whatever, which causes us to feel these things. I want you to write down some of the feelings that's making you feel for a moment. Because then the next thing is the big one. This is why everybody goes to therapy. This is why we do what we do. So you guys got the feelings down? Which ones do you resonate with? And I want you to put a star beside the one feeling or interpretation that really resonates. That just, you actually can feel it. It hurts. Okay? Some of you are engaged. Others are, it's just too painful to go there. This is painful. This is basically what causes, this is so interesting. I had a gal, she had thyroid cancer. In my overview experience in Atlanta, when I traveled the world, I did it in Atlanta. She had a story about her mother in the past. The second she got her cancer diagnosis, I asked her, okay, that was her stressful moment. What did it make you feel? It made me feel alone. Okay, where did you feel that? Okay, what are the interpretations? I feel despair. I felt betrayed. Okay, her body was betraying her. That was her interpretation, alone, betrayed. Interesting. Then I asked her, which I'm going to ask you in a moment, go back to your earliest memory where you felt that way. And it was when she was 23 and her mother, and she met her mother, because she was given up for adoption. So this was an abandonment issue. And when I got her into that moment and I said, where do you feel? I feel abandoned. I always ask the question, I'm going to encourage you to do that when you're reflecting. Where do you feel that? And she goes, I feel it right here. And that's where the thyroid cancer was. Or I've seen patients with colon cancer, and it was back from a sexual trauma in the past, and it was right there where she felt it. You cannot convince me that the mind and the body are not linked. I feel so strongly about this that more people need to actually learn this work so that they don't have to wait for a cancer diagnosis or any type of chronic illness diagnosis before they change that story. How many of you guys are with me on that?
Would you mind going to the last slide? Just the one previous for just a second?
Interpretations?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. Is this interesting to some of you?
Yeah.
Two of you?
Yes.
So you're kind of resonating with following? Okay, good. This is called Zen Conscious Lounge. Conscious. These negative emotions are not something to run away from. The more you run, the more illness comes chasing after you, until you can actually go in head first and deal with them. Now the interpretations, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, these are the feelings. Now, this is the next question. How do you act when you, that one that you put a star beside, how do you act when you feel that way? This here is the seat of our addictive behaviors. This is where we distract. This is where we numb. It's actually what we all spend years of counseling and therapy to try to fix. We're trying to fix all of this. But here's the thing. These are the behaviors created by the feelings and interpretations created by the delusions. So if you're trying to stop this here without actually going after this here, you're engaged in a futile endeavor. Especially if you have a complete unawareness of what your true values are. It is my mission on planet Earth to teach people that and reconnect them with themselves. Reconnect them with their authentic, true self, because if you don't, your health will turn south. And you're going to go from one doctor to another, from one medical practitioner, one pill, one specialist, looking for outside-in cures, hoping and praying, when the answer actually is an emotion that you haven't yet completed and changed that story. Or several. Let's say there's several chapters in that book that need to be changed. So you guys wrote down? Now, the next question, the most important part, is where do these feelings and interpretations come from? And as you sit there for a moment and you're a little bit uncomfortable, I want you to go back to your earliest memory of feeling that way. And this is where the story of mom, dad, there is a pattern of abandonment. There's a pattern of betrayal. There's a pattern of abuse. There's a pattern of rejection. And my friends, my dear friends, this is the story that every person with a chronic illness has to tell. If you've ever read Gabor Mate's book, he's talking about it. You heard Steve's story. I was alone, not good enough. Who doesn't have a story like that? But who has a tool that they can actually use on a regular basis to help them level up? And once you clear that story, you level up to your next story of an inadequacy. And we keep growing in conscious awareness to love ourselves on this journey towards loving ourselves. And that woman in Atlanta with this thyroid cancer that she was diagnosed with went back, and here's what we did. This is what I'm going to be encouraging you to do. Said, how did your mother leaving you serve you? This is the key. Knowing what your values are, and that story that you are tied to, where that interpretation comes from, you're going to ask, how did it serve me? And at first you're going to say, it didn't. But I want you to look at what your true values are and see what were the benefits of that. And then what would have been the drawbacks had that scene or that scenario gone exactly as you wanted. And once you put that together, you realize that you have a redefinition of the word forgiveness. Instead of forgiving, you can say, thank you for giving me that experience. Because I truly believe that there is no greater power of healing than the power of unconditional love and gratitude. But we give it lip service, but we don't actually have a methodology to get us there. I've done the landmark, I've done all that stuff, and I've seen a lot of stuff that's amazing to rewrite that story and say, just accept it. But if you push further, you can actually get to gratitude. And I truly believe that healing can't happen fully without unconditional love and gratitude.